Hello, everybody, and welcome to this eMarketeer Academy webinar. Thank you so much for taking your time to be here today to understand a little bit more of the smart things you can do with SuperOffice CRM and eMarketeer in an integrated fashion, and how to kind of rock your marketing efforts from a CRM perspective. That is the topic of today. You should be seeing my slides now. Smart marketing tricks for SuperOffice CRM. My name is Strauss, and I'm one of the speakers here at the eMarketeer Academy, and I'm also a product evangelist, which means that I'm sharing my ideas, inspirations, and knowledge with the eMarketeer, in this case, the SuperOffice platforms, and how you can utilize those to really drive value from your investments in your marketing and your CRM initiatives, and be a rock star with regards to keeping your colleagues up to date on what's going on with your marketing activities. We're scheduled to be at the webinar for about an hour, depending on how many questions you guys have. We will record the webinar, so don't worry too much about where I click or what I type. You can go back to the recording and review it. I'd be happy if you want to share it with colleagues in your organization. That'd just be very helpful. You can ask questions anytime. Please do. There is a questions box on the right or left-hand side of your screen. Just type in your questions there, so you can start now already. What is this going to be all about? What's the weather like in Copenhagen? Whatever. Let me know what you are thinking about during the webinar, because then we can have a bit of a dialogue instead of me just talking at you for an hour. So please go ahead and share your questions, observations. Also, if you have feedback, anything, just let me know there. The other participants can't see your questions, they can't see your name, so there's no reason to be shy at all. Just let me know what you think as we go through the webinar, and I'll do my best to catch up on the questions as we go along, and certainly at the Q&A session at the end. If I'm not catching your questions during the webinar, I will get back to you directly on email. So it's not wasted at all. All right. So let's dive right into this. What's the plan here today? The plan is to learn some simple and smart tricks that you can use today. It's not complicated, it's not techy. You can start doing this today to really increase the value of your SuperOffice CRM and eMarketeer. Now, if you don't have eMarketeer at this point, this is just for your inspiration. You don't need to have any beforehand knowledge. It doesn't matter. This is just inspirational. And a byproduct, or the main focus basically of why we're doing this, is to bring sales, marketing, maybe account management, people who are working in the CRM closer together by sharing information in the CRM system. Now, why do we want to do this? It's because we want to be a marketing rock star. We want to help our colleagues make the best knowledge, make the best decisions, take the best actions based on what we do. So we want to make it that simple to find information. We want to make sure that SuperOffice is the place where you would go to look for information when it has to do with what is going on with your customers and prospects. We want to help the CRM adoption in the company. CRM adoption means how many people are using the CRM and how many people are enjoying and go to the CRM as the first place of business. We want to help that adoption increase by sharing more information in a timely fashion in the SuperOffice. We want to save time, want to cut down on internal emails and Slacks and team threads and whatnot, and just make information available where people already are. And then, as I mentioned, align sales and marketing. Make sure that everybody's on the same page. What are we working on? What campaigns are we doing? How are they driving results? Let's showcase that inside SuperOffice. Okay, so with that out of the way, we'll get on to it. eMarketeer is a marketing automation platform. We're based in Stockholm, Sweden, and we've partnered with SuperOffice for yay long, more than 10 years, I think. And our eMarketeer marketing platform is tightly integrated into SuperOffice. So you would be using SuperOffice for your sales and your account management and your customer service and all of the stuff that you're familiar with. And then your marketing team would be working in eMarketeer, building campaigns, creating marketing automation. And these two systems are very closely tied together. Now, I won't go into all the details of what eMarketeer can do, but just one slide, you can just have this as a reference. You've got your email marketing, your forms, your surveys, your mobile app building, landing pages, website monitoring, event management, all of these marketing projects that you're doing. You can do all of those in this platform. You can automate and report and chart everything you do. And then in SuperOffice, we make all of this information available on web panels, on activities. We update selections and projects and activities and sales and interests and so much more. So it's a lot to take in, and you may be thinking, well, I'm just doing newsletters. But basically, as soon as you're engaging with customers or with projects from a marketing perspective, and you want to make that information readily and quickly available in SuperOffice, eMarketeer could be an option for you to look at for sure. Okay. And in a nutshell, it has to do with, we want to tear down the silos between these different departments. We want to make sure that, just as you say to a salesperson, if your sales or your meeting or your activities aren't in the CRM, how should we know that they've happened? And we're saying the same thing to marketing. If you can't see the marketing activities, the customer journeys, the digital footprints of your customers and prospects, how should we know that it's happened? So it's a matter of having full transparency from SuperOffice into all of the different marketing channels, all of the people visiting your website, and really bringing that into SuperOffice. Okay, with that out of the way, hope it wasn't too much of a sales spiel, but I just wanted to give some context onto where we are with in the SuperOffice landscape. There's also already a question here from Andre. Hi there, is eMarketeer included in SuperOffice version 10? No, eMarketeer is a standalone platform, so it's an old tool developed by eMarketeer, but we integrate into SuperOffice. So it is a choice that you can choose to add on to your SuperOffice stack there if you want to. It's not included in the new version of SuperOffice. So first tip here is make sure you use automations to drive down manual work, to be proactive and real time about the way you follow up on people's activities, and provide insights to your colleagues in SuperOffice. So that's the first tip. Use automations to get things happening in a real-time fashion. So just some terminology here on what automation is. An automation is an instruction that tells eMarketeer to do something. For instance, create something in SuperOffice. And an automation consists of two things: a trigger and an action. Firstly, a trigger is what starts an automation. So what are we listening for? Maybe people clicking links, or opening your emails, or answering surveys, or submitting the contact form on your website. Anything that you can track digitally can be a trigger. And then you have an action. For instance, sending a follow-up email to somebody who clicked a product link in your email campaign, or somebody that submitted a request on your website. You want to follow up with something. That follow-up action is what is typically automated. Then in between these two, you can have a delay. Maybe you want things to happen right away, or maybe you want to delay something. Let's say somebody becomes a new customer, and you start them off on a customer onboarding campaign. Then after 6 weeks, maybe after that campaign has started, you want to send a survey and ask them how they're doing, for instance. So you can have a delay. So the combination of a trigger, potentially a delay, and an action is an automation, right? So that's just some terminology to get that out of the way. Okay, so let's look at what we can trigger on. First of all, eMarketeer, again, as I mentioned, you can do a lot of these things: emails, forms, landing pages, mobile apps, text messaging, and so on. So we can trigger on basically anything that happens in your marketing communication, right? So for emails, for instance, are they opening your emails, clicking them, clicking specific links? When you do forms, for instance, surveys or evaluations or contact us forms or call to action forms on your website, are they being submitted? Are they being submitted with specific answers? Your landing pages, are they being visited? Are they being clicked? Mobile apps for your phones, maybe you want to do a mobile app for your event or a mobile app for your customers. Are they using it? Are they clicking it? What are they clicking on? All of that can be triggers. And lastly, text messages. If you use that in your marketing mix, when you send text messages, if they're delivered, if they're clicked, or if they click specific links in those, all of those are things you can track on. So as you can see, quite a lot of stuff. You know, eMarketeer's got big ears, right? We can listen to a lot of stuff that happens in your marketing mix. What are your customers and your prospects doing with your marketing messages? Now, listening is great, but being able to follow up with actions is even better, of course. So in eMarketeer, you can do a bunch of stuff. You can send emails, SMSs, you can build lists, you can update contact cards, contact information, you can update their legal basis, their consent, you can update subscription statuses, unsubscribe people, send notifications to people outside your organization when things happen, and you can even push data into other systems. So just a lot of things that you can have happen in eMarketeer. Some of them might be back to the person who, for instance, submitted a form, someone submitted a form, and you want to send a follow-up email thanking them for that. That's a very, very simple thing. But those are all things you can do in eMarketeer. Now, when we look at SuperOffice, we have a whole other bag of tricks. Let me just get that in there. We are a whole other bag of tricks with actions you can do towards SuperOffice. So again, when any of this happens on the marketing side, you can do all of this. You can create a sale. You can create an open activity on a contact. You can create a closed activity. So not a to-do item, but just a FYI. You can add a new lead or new company to SuperOffice that wasn't there before. You can add and remove people from selections, from projects. You can update interest codes. And of course, we keep the consent and legal basis in sync, so we're GDPR compliant. So all of these things you can have happen. Just by one trigger, you can trigger all of these actions in SuperOffice. So there are really unlimited ways that you can combine these things to work for you. Here's a question from Kim. How much of this can you do if you have SuperOffice and eMarketeer? All of this stuff is SuperOffice and eMarketeer. We also have another product called Lead Explorer that looks for visitors on your website, tries to identify which companies are they from, and bring you a lot of information about that company from the people who visited your website. That's called Lead Explorer. So all of this, Kim, is possible without Lead Explorer, just by having eMarketeer and SuperOffice. Thanks for that question. Keep them coming. I hope that answered that. So let's look at an example of what an automation could look like in real life. So let's say that when people are signing up for our newsletter, or they're ordering material on a website, or requesting a demo, you have an email flow that starts trickling out emails over time, right? So let's have a look at one of these emails. I'm getting a product-focused email. There's a brochure or a white paper or a price page or something I can click on, and I go onto the website to read more about this product, for instance. So pretty simple. Maybe a newsletter is sent. I click on a product. 2 days later, I get this product-focused email, and obviously I want to follow up on that in a good way that this person has clicked on that email. So in SuperOffice, we do a couple of things automatically with our automations. We create an open activity. In this case, we've chosen telephone out, invite Klaus for test drive. He downloaded the brochure. So if my agreement with my sales colleagues is that when people get to this point in their customer journey where they actually open up the brochure or check out the price list or whatever it is, I want to get on the phone with them as close to real time as possible. So we add that automation in there. Now it's on the company, it's on the company, it's on the contact, it's even in Michael's diary over here. There's a to-do item of the type telephone out. Then we do a couple of more things. We add the person to the project called test drives, because we want to invite him to test drive this car, to try it out. Could be a product demo or something similar. And he's added as a project member, which means that we can now also see the activities and sales related to this project that these automations might kick into to SuperOffice. We also update the interests on the contact card of the person clicking here. So on the interest on Klaus here, we now have ticked off Porsche sports cars is his interest. This is great for future segmentation and send outs and so on. And then lastly, we also automatically create a sale. Granted, this is maybe a little bit aggressive, creating a sale just by the fact that he opened up the brochure, but just to give you an idea of what you can do with all of these automations. So we've created a potential sale, we set an amount, we set a stage, and we put in the text that we've decided in eMarketeer. And all of this happens just by the fact that our recipient clicked that one link to go on to the brochure. So we now have information for the salesperson to follow up. We have a potential sale, so my pipeline is starting to fill up and it will show on my dashboard. We have the activity there that I can open and work on, and I have full insights to what's been going on. So that is all pretty neat with just that one click. So just have a quick look into eMarketeer, where we have this campaign. Now, again, if you don't know eMarketeer, don't worry too much about this. It's an intuitive, easy to use platform. But I'm just like kind of jumping back and forth between the different elements here, so you can see the stuff that we have here. So in this case, I had my newsletter. He clicked on an article about Porsche, and then he got the Porsche email. And when he clicked that one, we want to trigger all of these things, right? So as you can see, I have a whole flow here of emails that are supposed to go out depending on what the recipient does with my campaign here. And all of that is set up with automations. And looking at my automations, you can see that they're kind of a recipe of what I want to have happen. I can give them a name. For instance, the Porsche Nurture was the one that we just saw. So when a specific link is clicked in the welcome email, I want to send the Porsche Nurture email. And then if a specific link is clicked in the Porsche email, a specific link is clicked in that, I want to notify sales. So I want to create a task there. So let's just have a look at that automation and see how it's set up. Oh, sorry, that's the wrong one. So let's see. Oh, I got deleted that one. Never mind, we'll just do it right away. I'll go ahead and create a new automation and say, I want to create a task in SuperOffice. I want to say task call person. And I want to store this person in a project in SuperOffice. I want to store them in the test drive. So I'm looking at my SuperOffice selections and projects from eMarketeer. And I want to select an activity. These are all the activity types you have available in SuperOffice. I'm going to do telephone out, and I'll say call, and then the first name of the contact that triggered my campaign here. Call first name. He, she has read the Porsche brochure, or something like that. And then I want to tell eMarketeer, okay, when should this task be created in SuperOffice and the person be added to the project? Well, it should happen when they, in the Porsche email, clicks a specific link, the link to the Porsche page on my site. That's it. That's all I need to do. And then I have this new automation in eMarketeer that tells eMarketeer when a link is clicked in the Porsche email, create a task in SuperOffice. Right. So straightforward. Easy to do, and you can have as many as you would like. And then in SuperOffice, this is SuperOffice 9. It also works for SuperOffice on-prem and SuperOffice online, so it doesn't really matter which version you have. Depending on your version of your on-premise, it may look a little bit different, the user interface here. So you would have on your activities, now you would have a call activity like this one. Says telephone out, call Klaus, he or she opened the Porsche brochure. And when I'm zoomed in way too much here. Just let me get a little bit back. When I open up the activity, I will have a web panel on my activity that shows me exactly which links were clicked, how did the email look. I have full information into everything that's been going on the marketing side. Easy to do, easy for me to follow up on, and I can go ahead and close the activity and be on with my day, not leaving SuperOffice for 1 second to do so. So really efficient, really efficient. So that is automations, and obviously there's tons more you can do with automations. We cannot go through it all in any sense here, but I just wanted to show you that automations is a real powerful sidekick to have when you want to do things automatically between the marketing team and the sales team without manual work and being as close to real time as at all possible. Okay. Tip number 2 is also all about making information available in SuperOffice. And one of the really nice places to go for information on persons is what we call the marketing timeline. The marketing timeline, if you have eMarketeer and SuperOffice integrated already, is where you see the digital footprint, the customer journey of what a person has been doing. So a report that shows you straight from SuperOffice profile image, social platforms where the person is active, the lead score of the person from eMarketeer, and then a chronological timeline of everything that that person has done in the marketing system straight from within SuperOffice. And what I really like about the G9 and the coming G10 SuperOffice versions is the side panel over here, and we love using the timeline in that side panel. So that's what I wanted to just show you. In previous version of SuperOffice, the side panel over here was just at the top, so it was called the mini cart, and it didn't really have so much real estate. But now with the full height side panel, you can really go to town exploiting this area inside SuperOffice. And so what we've done here is we've put the timeline on the side panel here, showing you the details of what people have been doing. So as I'm in my SuperOffice and I have my timeline selected there on the side panel, and I look at different people in my contacts archive here, I see the timelines of these different people and what they've been doing in eMarketeer. So you would have a profile image, social media icons, you would see the lead score, and then you can see everything that they've done in your marketing activities. So for instance, if we pull up me here and go down, we can see that he's received an email called Porsche Brochure. We can see that he opened this, but he hasn't clicked it yet. I can click on the different components and see when they were sent, what was clicked, how the email looked. And I can kind of go back in the customer journey, seeing everything that he's done on forms, on my website, even SMSs, form answers, and so on. I can see everything that this person has done straight on the timeline here. And I just think that the side panel is a really neat way to use that timeline. The timeline normally when you've integrated eMarketeer and SuperOffice is here on your left-hand navigator panel. So when you click timeline, it opens up in the big browser here, which is also really nice if you really want to deep dive and go into all of the different components. But just wanted to show you that you can add it to the side panel, which I think is a pretty neat placement for that. I can see some questions popping in. I'm quite sure they are around, how do you get them into the side panel? Let's see. Do we have a manual of how to do that? Yeah, let us have a look. I'll just quickly do it, and I've also left it in the presentation for you. So what you want to do, either you or your SuperOffice admin in your organization needs to go to the settings and maintenance. And this is where you kind of set up the look and feel and behavior of SuperOffice. And this is where some of these tricks are done. You would go to lists and search for web panels. There you go. And then somewhere you would have the web panel called timeline, which is the big timeline report on the SuperOffice logo. So what you would want to do there is just go in there and copy the URL here. This is your unique timeline URL. So copy that, then create a new web panel, paste in your URL, give it a name, timeline on side panel, for instance, and then make sure you say visible in and then choose side panel. That's all you need to do. So drop in your URL, put in side panel as visible in, and hit save, and that new web panel will be available in your side panel. It's all in the notes, so don't worry about that. And if you have a hard time, do hit me up on my email and I can help you out setting that up for you. It's pretty convenient. Here's another question from Kim. Do you have to manually insert the profile pictures, social media links, and so on? No, you do not have to put that in manually, Kim. We have some algorithms and some technology that are looking for all of this information. We're calling it enrichment, right? So what we're doing is we're taking the contact person's email address, right? So just by focusing on a person, we're grabbing the email address of that person, and then we're trying to figure out as much as we can about this person. Where is he or she active on social media? Can we find a publicly available profile image, and so on? And then we'll bring that information into the report. So you don't need to do any of that manually. Now, you may think this is a bit fishy and, isn't that stalking people? Well, if it's publicly available online, eMarketeer can pick that up and put that into your timeline report there. It's just the same as going to LinkedIn and looking for their name. eMarketeer just does that really easy for you. So that's the reason. That's the reason for that. Here's a question from Andrew. What about GDPR? Well, of course, anything that underscores here with regards to GDPR is you have to have consent on people for storing their information and for doing marketing activities. That's so crucial. That's why SuperOffice is so focused on consent management. eMarketeer is the same thing, and these two systems are kept in sync. So whenever a consent change happens on the eMarketeer side, SuperOffice will know, and vice versa. So as soon as you have the consent to store people, we're good there. And then we use this information to look up information. We don't store the image in the database. We bring the image into the browser, and when you leave the report, we don't store that image. So it's kind of the same as doing a Google on the person. We just make it a heck of a lot easier. So that was the marketing timeline in the side panel, which I think is a really neat way to bring that panel in. Another thing about web panels that I really like is the ability to put landing pages that are full of information into SuperOffice. Again, why would I do that? It's because I want to drive down internal emailing. I want to drive down long Microsoft Teams or Slack threads with updates to our content. And I want to make the SuperOffice CRM the place to go for information. Right, so let's have a look at some landing pages. And what are landing pages? Well, in eMarketeer, you can build landing pages. So let me nick back to the campaign here. We're in an eMarketeer campaign, and as you can see, you can add web pages, which are standalone websites that are fully compatible with anything you can do in HTML in a browser, and they're just really easy to build based on a lot of the templates that we have. So that's a landing page. And when you build a landing page in eMarketeer, you have all these bells and whistles you can add to them. In this case, I've taken an event template. So I have an event countdown, I have a schedule, and what I use this landing page for is I am using this landing page to tell my colleagues, what are we doing in marketing? What does our marketing calendar look like? What kind of events do we do? When do we have the next webinar? Here are the slides, here are the images, what videos have we done? All of this stuff that really comes from marketing, I'm making that available to my colleagues here. So I have a schedule, I have links to invitation emails and landing pages, I have a gallery of images that we're using right now. Maybe I could have links to our latest slide deck. I have a video playlist and tons more, people working on the marketing team, so on. Now, once I'm done building this landing page in eMarketeer, I obviously want to bring it into SuperOffice and make it available there. So in SuperOffice, again, I'm using web panels, in this case, web panels on the SuperOffice logo here, and I'm bringing in my marketing overview straight inside this browser. So you're familiar now with the landing page I did. I can browse around from this view and look at the different things here. Here's my video playlist. I have, this is just a playlist that I've brought in from YouTube. eMarketeer integrates to YouTube as well. I've got the biographies and persons here. I've got some pricing information and whatever. So the cool thing is, once I update this in eMarketeer, I go ahead and add another image or add another 3 months to my calendar here and add events. This page will automatically be updated inside SuperOffice. I've also over here added a navigation item. So when let's say I'm on a company here, looking at some persons here, and I click the navigator button down here, marketing activities, I jump straight to that browser view. So really an easy way to tell your colleagues, just go to the marketing overview. There will be all of the latest material, brochures, presentations, whatever that we have. You can go ahead and look at all of that there. I'm also doing a webinar central that we are sharing internally here, so people can always see on-demand webinars on our website or on our YouTube channel. They can see what upcoming webinars I have. They can click to register directly if they want to register for that webinar themselves. I have explained the webinar flow, so our invitation, registration, confirmation. I'm going to add some notes on what those different things are, webinar playlists, and so on. So just some ideas on how you could share content with your colleagues there into SuperOffice. Here's a question: how do you get the link in the top marketing overview? Let me just briefly show you, and I think let me just nick to my presentation here. I have some slides for that as well. Yes. Okay. So in eMarketeer, you have built your landing page. as we talked about before. So I have my landing page, and what I want to do is I want to go to publish and get my link there. So click get a URL, and I copy the URL. Then in SuperOffice, I go into my settings and maintenance again, and I go to the web panel list that we were just at before. Lists, web panel, and I go ahead and create a new web panel. I give it a name, for instance, marketing overview, and then I paste in my URL, and then in the visible instead of the site panel that we chose before, I'm going for panel, zoomed in, panel, and then web panel on SuperOffice button. That's the web panel that you want to use, because then you get this neat big web panel on the browser when people click the SuperOffice button, and you get the headline over there, marketing overview. Now, as I showed you, I also had the button on the left-hand navigation. Let me just see if I can find that one, marketing activities. This is what is called a navigator button, and you use something called SO protocol. I've put all of this in the slides, so don't worry. The trick here is what the SO protocol browser does, that it calls a specific web panel that you've created, and it adds it to a button in the left-hand panel there. So it's kind of adding new features and functions to SuperOffice, but it's very easy to do. There are just a few techie things that you want to put in here. And as promised in the slide deck, I've shown you how you put in the marketing overview on the web panel, and also how you create the navigator button, how you go ahead and do that. So it's all in the slide deck and in the recording there for you, Kim. So I hope that makes sense. And again, if you can't go into settings and maintenance, it's because you're not the admin of SuperOffice. So just figure out in your organization who's actually doing this, or maybe it's a SuperOffice partner or consultant that you normally use. They can help you create these panels here on the SuperOffice logo. When you click there, you have all of these different, you can put all of these different reports right into the panel here. We also use web panels for other purposes, like maybe we want to do in this case, we take a dashboard from eMarketeer. So eMarketeer, obviously, you would dashboard your marketing performance, your KPIs with different campaigns. You can also bring these dashboards into SuperOffice if it's relevant. In this case, it's email performance. How are we doing email-wise? How many signups are we getting? How many emails are we sending out? How are they performing? So a full overview of our email marketing projects. I could bring a dashboard into SuperOffice on a web panel if I wanted to share that information with my colleagues. Maybe an evaluation, if we're doing that for an event or customer satisfaction, I can bring in the results on a web panel as well. So there are a lot of ways where web panels can be used to share information without people needing to have access to eMarketeer and ever leaving SuperOffice. Okay, so I hope that that answered the questions of how to go about doing that. I know that I talk very fast. It's all in the recording, it's all in the slides. And if you want to have further details, a one-to-one session where we set this up, just let me know in the questions box, and I'd be happy to reach out to you and help you guys out. Okay, so let's move on to the next tip, is a marketing remote control. Now, having people leave SuperOffice to do something that's important to their daily job, to the daily processes, is not the way we want to go. We want to have sales and account managers keeping their focus on what's happening in SuperOffice. But sometimes there are just things that they need to do. Maybe they need to start a person on a campaign. Maybe they need to trigger some marketing activity, and we don't want them to have to leave SuperOffice and go into eMarketeer. So what we're doing instead is we're creating a marketing remote control, or what we call a trigger form. Now, a trigger form is a form from eMarketeer that is used in SuperOffice, and in this case in the side panel, that can trigger different things happening in eMarketeer. Now let's just debunk the mystique here around this. So in eMarketeer, I have a trigger form here in my campaign, and let me just open up the form. So in eMarketeer, it's just a form. You can create different actions. These are just different question types. So in this case, I want to make the SuperOffice user able to send a meeting evaluation, send a brochure, register for a roadshow, invite for a virtual event, or invite to a webinar. These are currently the 5 or 6 actions that I want to make available on my remote control for my sales and account management colleagues there. And then depending on what action you choose, I open up some different options here. For instance, if they say send brochure, I would like the choose brochure question to pop up. If they say register for roadshow, I will open up the time slots and gray out obviously the ones that aren't available anymore when they're sold out, and so on. So this form is just yours to go bananas with, and you can add more options and remove options and so on. This is just an eMarketeer form basically. So what we do with this form is that we grab the link for the form and we add it to SuperOffice, and then some pretty cool stuff happens. So let me just find my company here, and I'm looking at a person. Maybe I've had a meeting with this guy, and then from the side panel here, I can choose my marketing processes, and that brings up my little remote control. So you're familiar with the form now. This is the exact same form you just saw in eMarketeer, but it does something pretty smart. You can see the contact details down here. They are mimicking the person that I've chosen over here. So when I change to a new person, I can see the contact details updating, which means that eMarketeer will know which person is triggering this form, so to speak. So I could go ahead and say send meeting evaluation or send brochure, and then as you saw before, questions pop up, or I can say register for roadshow, and then the time slots show up, and so on. So whenever they choose something here, I have automations in eMarketeer who are listening for these specific answers and kicking off the relevant actions. So if I say send brochure Porsche and click send, the eMarketeer automation will fire, that will send the correct email to the person with the link to the Porsche brochure. When they click the Porsche brochure, an activity will go into SuperOffice saying, hey, your contact clicked the brochure, open here to see the email, and so on. So we have really a closed loop from this remote control where they kick off activities all the way back into SuperOffice again when they actually do something with those activities that I've kicked off. So pretty easy way to just make it available for my colleagues here. Send meeting evaluation to this person, good stuff. Click send, all set, your request has been sent. Then eMarketeer will send the meeting evaluation invitation. The recipient gets that, clicks the links, open the evaluation, answers the evaluation, and then an automation fires a task right back into SuperOffice saying, hey, your contact completed the evaluation, have a look at the result here. So pretty neat to be able to kind of trigger these actions straight from within your SuperOffice CRM. The trick here is a little bit nerdy, and that's why I've left this slide in here as well. It is a matter of sharing a link on a web panel, just as we've seen before, but we need to do a few tricks with the form. So first of all, we grab the form from eMarketeer, the form URL, and this is the URL that we'll be getting from eMarketeer, all of this bit down to here. And then we want to add this part here. This is where the magic happens from SuperOffice. So here we add identity equals email and value equals AMAI, which is a SuperOffice merge tag for the active contact's email address. Gibberish, I know. This only needs to be done once, and then you can forget it. So what you do here is you grab your form URL, you add this piece to the URL, and then just as we saw before, we add a web panel with that URL on our side panel here. And that tricks the form to constantly load the contact in SuperOffice with the matching email address here. So you have the information you need. Pretty sweet and an easy way to make things available to your colleagues in SuperOffice. Then tip number 5 is also maybe handling some of the internal processes that you do in marketing and handling them inside SuperOffice. For instance, when we did events, and hopefully we get back to doing big physical events and trade shows and road shows and all of that stuff again, landing pages are a great way to communicate dates, times, schedules, and all of that. But sometimes you have some process that you want to kick off as well in your process there. So on the again on the SuperOffice logo here, I've added a form. In this case, it's an order form. So what this one does is it actually pulls in the contact details of the person who's logged into SuperOffice. So now these are my contact details because I'm logged into SuperOffice, and the field is populated with all of my information here. And then I have some different options here at the top. I can order a presentation deck for marketing. I can order business cards. When I do so, it says, please verify your details. This is the information that will go onto the business card. I can order key hangers. I want to have 40, 50 key hangers. I can book an event polo shirt. I get a sizing charge there. I'm probably an extra large, and so on. So you can see you can gather a lot of information, ordering stuff here for an event, for instance, from your colleagues. And depending on who logs in, their contact details will be here. The cool thing is when you click send here on this eMarketeer form, depending on what you've chosen up here, you can have different actions going on. For instance, the evaluation deck, well, that can just fire off an email with the last updated version of our presentation deck for whatever they've chosen here. Business card prints, depending on who manages that, maybe an email will go off to your reception saying this person has ordered business cards with these details on them. Maybe the event polo shirt that goes into a report that is available to your merchandise vendor so that they know exactly how many small, medium, large, and so on that they should be delivering to you when the delivery day is due. So as you can see, some things that would normally take place in email strings or on Microsoft Teams or Slack or wherever you would have a thread of messages going back and forth. This is just a very convenient way to do it for the marketing team, for the colleagues that are ordering stuff, and also you're helping SuperOffice be the place where people go to do their work and driving the adoption up there. So again, I've added a little nerdy slide for you as a reference where you can see how you go ahead and add this. It is the same process as before. You grab the form URL from eMarketeer, and then you add this little bit at the end, which in this case has the merge tag useEM, which is the user email address of the person who's logged into SuperOffice. That's it. Open settings and maintenance, add it as a web panel, and you're good to go. Let me just see. There's a question here from Susan. Are these web panels available to everyone in SuperOffice? It depends on what you want to do, Susan. Web panels can be limited to a user group. So let's say you want this booking form or order form only to be available to a certain user group in SuperOffice. You can do that, and you can make that web panel available to that user group and hidden for other user groups. So if that's what you mean, Susan, that is the way to do that. Simply limit the number of user groups that have access to this web panel, and you do that in the settings and maintenance as well. If you refer to whether they need to have access to eMarketeer, no, they don't. As long as it's in a web panel here, it's available to the people in SuperOffice. They don't need to have access to eMarketeer at all. All right. Okay, keep the questions coming. We're closing in on the final bits and pieces here of my tips. I had a couple of bonus tips for you that I wanted to share. If I can get my Mac to go back into PowerPoint. Hello, little guy, could you please go back? There we are. So a few bonus tips that also have to do with sharing, specifically project links. I think is a hugely underused feature in SuperOffice that I just wanted to highlight because it's pretty darn powerful. So in SuperOffice, we work a lot with projects for our webinars, events, and campaigns. We organize people in projects. So for instance, if we do a virtual event, if we do a webinar, we'll make sure that everybody that signs up for the webinar automatically ends up as project members. We have all of the activities that these webinars kick off, follow-up activities, potential sales, and so on. They're all organized in the project automatically using automation. So that's a big plus, but we've already covered some of that. What I also like to do is on the project, you have a tab called links. And on this tab, it's easy for you to add external links to things that are relevant to this project. So for instance, if this was an event, I could add a registration report. I could add an evaluation report from eMarketeer straight to this view, which means that when my colleagues are looking at the project, they can always go in to check out the registration report. How are we doing with regards to registrations? How many people have signed up for the event? Which venues are they joining at, and so on. So that is always up to date. This is up to date all the time from SuperOffice. Maybe the evaluation report also in there for the event. So after the event and we've evaluated, we'll put the report in there. Would you recommend this conference to others? Yes, no. Would you like to book a meeting? Yes, no, and so on. So we can always keep our colleagues in the know with what's been going on with our event evaluations, event invitations, and so on. I can even go ahead and share some of the collateral, some of the material from the campaign. For instance, the email invitation. I want to create a link for that so people don't have to ask, how did the email look? What did we send out? I can simply add a link there and then it's available for my colleagues to look at. So it is pretty straightforward to get that stuff in there. Let me just go to eMarketeer and go to my event example here. I have, for instance, my evaluation over here. And I can go ahead and click reports. So from eMarketeer, I can obviously check out the reports and see how things are doing. And then I also have the ability to share my report. So if I click share, I get a link for this report that will always be up to date with the latest answers. So to go in and click share, I would set up my details. What do I want to share? All of that stuff. Get the link. And let me just grab a link here that we already have. There we go. Copy this one, and then in SuperOffice on my project, I simply go to links, I click edit, and I get an add button over here. I can add a URL, give it a link, and save that. Now that link will be available to everybody who has access to this project in SuperOffice. They don't need to have eMarketeer access. And I can now share relevant pages, reports, invitations, landing pages, form results, so on the links there, which I think is pretty neat way of sharing information there with your colleagues in the CRM. All right, we are closing in on our 50 minutes. I want to make sure that we have a little more room for questions. So now is a good time to fire off your last questions that you may have about any of the stuff that I've covered, or if you have any other questions about areas that I haven't covered today, do go ahead and shoot them my way in the questions box there. Let's see, here's a question from Jessica. We're using eMarketeer. What do we need to get SuperOffice? And can I, for example, do campaigns in eMarketeer and my colleagues, a salesperson who doesn't work in eMarketeer, catch up the work in SuperOffice? This is the point in case exactly, Jessica. If you have eMarketeer, you're already familiar with all of the stuff you have there. And if your organization gets SuperOffice, integrating these two is a click done project, more or less. And then you can have all of the stuff you do in eMarketeer fire activities and tasks over to your SuperOffice. So Jessica, if you don't mind, I'll have somebody reach out to you with regards to getting a demo of SuperOffice. That's not really my realm. We have good partners who are experts on that, and we can have a look at that. So just let me know just type me in other questions if you would like me to have someone reach out to you about that. Then I'll be happy to tie those two ends together and make that happen. Absolutely. I hope that answered your question, Jessica. Thank you for your time. I hope that this gave you some kind of inspiration as to how eMarketeer and SuperOffice can work together and how you can be a marketing rock star, sharing information, driving down internal emails, and making SuperOffice the place to go for you and your colleagues. Thanks for today. Hope to see you on an upcoming eMarketeer webinar, and looking forward to seeing what you come up with in eMarketeer and SuperOffice. Bye-bye, guys.